How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey. How are you this evening, Eric?
Jim, I'm fantastic. I'm not as well as my wife and daughter who slipped away this weekend and went to Universal without me. And not the nicest thing to do to send me texts over and over that you're drinking butter beers and buying cool stuff and doing Velocicoaster, but it's fine. They said they did not go to Epic because I wouldn't have been able to handle that. So they just did the other two parks. But wow. How are you, Jim?
Isn't it nice they made that sacrifice for you? That we won't go to the brand new park because it would hurt you too much.
Right. But I also can say I did get out of going to a cheering competition. So we're all winners.
Okay. Interesting note. Before we get started here, I want to circle back to a recent edition of the Epic Universal Podcast that Eric and I did. It might have been last week's show where we talked about the coming changes to Universal's Volcano Bay, where the Tapu system and virtual lines are going to be removed from that park starting on October 1st of this year. And then we went on to say that Volcano Bay would be closing just a few weeks after that on October 26th for a 5-month-long period where necessary maintenance and physical upgrades were going to be made to many of the attractions of that water park. And I then talked about, on the heels of Tapu going down, those sorts of changes would be necessary. Just one slight problem, which, by the way, one of our loyal listeners, Angus, great name, by the way, Angus, pointed out, Volcano Bay isn't closing for that 5-month-long period until October 26th, 2026, 18 months from now.
Who would have thought the year would have mattered, Jim?
There we go.
We just assumed all Octobers from this point, right? No.
There we go. So I apologies for getting that wrong, folks. So more to the point, thanks to Angus for pointing out our error. I'm genuinely embarrassed that I missed that kind of crucial detail, and it will endeavor to do better in the future. And speaking of which, let's just jump into today's show and see what I can get wrong this time. So now toward that end, we always at this part of the show like to acknowledge our sponsor, and that is, of course, the very nice folks at Be Our Guest Vacations. And are you planning your next adventure? Let the experts at Be Our Guest Vacations take care of the details. As a platinum level earmarked travel agency, they provide top-tier concierge service for trips to Universal Orlando, Universal Hollywood, the Disney parks, cruises, and more. So get started today at beourguestvacations.com, and be sure to mention that the Epic Universal Podcast sent you. All right, Eric. So, other than dealing with texts from your wife and your lovely daughter Lainey about, we're here, you're not. What else did you learn in regard to the Universal parks this week?
Well, Jim, today is, for those that are listening in, we're recording this on the same day that the Disney just had their earnings call. And the big news in the theme park world is that there is a park coming in Abu Dhabi, right?
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Right.
And kind of interesting, depending on who you talk to, that will be open in 5 years, which would put it head-to-head with Universal Studios UK. Some folks, however, are suggesting more likely 7 years. So, or what is that? 2033. Oh, geez. But you learned about another further wrinkle on this situation?
Jim, on the days of the show, I go online and I look for, I'm pretty much on the pulse of like what's on Twitter and what's on Facebook. I'm very much what's in the crowd there. But then I go on and I just look at the news outlets to see what's out there. And I saw something that I didn't see on Twitter, or I didn't see on Blue Sky, I didn't see on Instagram, any of that. But I found a couple articles, and the top news in the news section was Universal to open first ever theme park in India by 2027. And I'm like, hold on. I mean, the moment Disney announced this morning, like it was minutes after they mentioned Abu Dhabi. It was all over the internet. I got emails, everything. And to think that I didn't hear anything about India, but it was reported on May 4th by the Times of India, which seems to me like maybe their news site over there. I'm not too sure. But
Okay.
is this the first you're ever hearing of this? Is this real news? Is this like a leak that's not been confirmed? I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
It does. And here's the interesting thing is that if you take the 30,000 foot view and you understand that, for example, Disney has, its two parks in Asia, Shanghai Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland, and of course, Universal has its park in Beijing. Likewise, if we pivot to Japan, we have the Tokyo Disney Resort with Disney Seas and Tokyo Disneyland. And of course, Universal has its park in Osaka, Universal Japan. There are only so many, for lack of a better term, virgin places one can drop a theme park. And what's kind of interesting is the news today, of course, of Disney building its project in Abu Dhabi. And India is, I'm not going to lie, Eric, is a spot that both Disney and Comcast have looked at. And what's interesting about this is I can't tell you how I know this, but I know that Disney was looking at doing a theme park in a box in India. And what's interesting about the project that's being talked about here in the Times of India is theme park in a box, an indoor park tailored to this market. And just want to remind folks that the UK project was one of the worst kept secrets for 2 and 3 years out. That the people there next to the giant old brickworks were being actively courted by Universal. So, we were hearing about the meeting with the local community, with them working with government officials, and then we got the official announcement. And I wonder, given all these variables, if somebody at the Times of India stumbled onto this let's remember the story of Emily Brevera, the young woman who worked for the Orlando Sentinel, who put it together that Disney World was coming to Florida months before Disney was going to announce it. So I wonder if somebody at the Times of India has tripped onto the fact that these two giants of entertainment, leaders in the theme park world, have been looking at this space. It would be hard to imagine that Universal, especially if you look at and think about it, we've got opening this summer in July. We've got, Universal Horror Unleashed out in Vegas. We've got, is it Bliss, Texas? I keep getting the name wrong.
Frisco.
Frisco. Right? Why do I keep calling it Bliss, Texas? All right. Yes, we've got the park, the Universal Kids Park in 2026, I want to say, there in Texas. And with Epic just opening and now the UK park, I wonder if they tripped over. That's a lot. But not to say that, again, knowing that both Disney and Universal have looked at this, not to say, I think they may have the details right. I'm a little concerned about this 2027 thing. Even an indoor, completely enclosed theme park in a box, the rule of thumb is 5 years. I mean, 5 years. And in fact, that's what's interesting about, we were just talking about Dubai. The interesting thing is that depending on who you talk to, it's like, well, it's going to open, as I mentioned, either 2031 or 2033. But the other thing is, frankly, this is Dubai, where they throw money at everything. Yeah. And it's like, if ever there's going to be a park that's going to open in just 5 years, it's Dubai. So we'll tell you what, folks, this is, for lack of a better term, the podcast equivalent of Magic 8 Ball says, come back later. All right. Eric and I will go off and work our trap lines. And again, I think Eric has hit upon the really telling point here is that no response from Universal, nothing from Comcast, not even a denial. So that's interesting in and of itself. The fact that nobody's coming up, nope, you're wrong. but there's also nobody saying, yep, you're right. So
Jim, I'm a little like one of my things is maybe there was a little internal memo saying, hey, Disney, they're going to have their shareholders call. They're going to make a giant announcement. Oh, let's just throw something out there that softens the noise a bit. So I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if it's a real thing or it could be a clickbait article or what have you, but I think it was worth in talking about India and the possibilities of having a theme park in India, because that, like you said, there are a couple little hotbeds and there's not a ton of them, but if they're doing UK and it's just a matter of kind of playing a giant game of war where you're setting up shop to own your territory, so to speak.
No, you have to have the crucial ingredients of a part of the world that, and there's no polite way of saying this, has the money and the population base to support a theme park and a resort. And India is on that list. So let's put a pin in this, keep an eye on it, and I will go off and work my trap line and see what we can find. But yeah, that in fact, thank you, Eric. It's actually assembled a neat little timetable here. If we're talking overseas, their first international expansion was Universal Studios Japan in 2001. We got the Universal Studios Singapore, which is really sort of built on the back of that casino resort. That was 2010. We got Beijing opening in 2021, and as we mentioned, potentially UK opening in 2031. And like I said, seems a little optimistic. Yeah, we're going to have a theme park open in 2027. Right. Mostly made out of cardboard and folding chairs, but yeah, it'll be up and running. So
it's a dark ride, just a giant dark
ride.
There we
go.
Well, here's something that we do know that's opened up, and this was one of the major things that I was kind of jealous of, and I have some questions, Jim, because like I said, I just went to the parks for the first time in July, so there's lots of questions, and we were fortunate enough to actually go into the tribute store that was like a retro VCR like shop, like an old video shop. Well, Lauren and Lainey sent me a ton of pictures because they were down at the team member like a clearance store, which was in that same Hollywood location, where annual pass holders basically got extreme discounts. And it was open. And when we went down a couple weeks ago, it was closed. And it originally was the Mardi Gras. And it was like the creatures that we talked about. Like there was like a Bigfoot land. And I was super mad that they had it closed down. But did you see any of this spring up online, Jim, that they opened this back up and there are some tremendous deals going on from a merchandise perspective? But more importantly for me, they have all types of cool props out there from past tribute stores. So there were, I mean, even Bill and Ted's phone booth was in there, right? And there were some of the old props from just this latest tribute store, and then the video one prior to. But do they do this frequently? It seems like this is just open up for like the team members or annual pass holders to get a discount.
This gets kind of interesting because, I mean, let's be clear here. We've got Epic opening in what? Just over 2 weeks at this point.
13 days or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So because of this first summer, we can expect Universal may be deviating from what they've done previously. So again, normally during the summer, we'll get a different tribute store. And then, of course, come Halloween and Horror Nights, they always do a tribute store. And what I find intriguing about this is the way it's popped up and the way it's done does kind of suggest that just because of what's going on with Epic and a lot of people who are normally involved in the tribute stores and that sort of thing, it's an all hands on deck situation getting that park open. So this may be the sort of Band-Aid that we're getting. But that said, again, in much the same way with the last news story, Magic 8 Ball says, come back later. Let me make some phone calls here and see if we can find out what's going on with this store. On the other hand, knowing your bride, what did she buy?
Oh, she actually hasn't unpacked her suitcase yet. So I do know I got a shirt that she tells me I'm going to love. But she was showing that there are a lot of items in this store that you can buy full price at other stores. And they were were getting it like 40% off, which I can tell you when we went, they had the Brown Derby open and they had a little annual pass holder and you had to show your annual pass to get in. And I can attest that the exact same thing happened where there was a shirt, like the shirt I'm wearing right now is a Deadpool shirt that was full price in the main shops, but I got like 60% off in the other. So they are having some pretty good deals. So the stuff she was sending were some items that are rare and probably either clearance, like there was Mardi Gras stuff that you could buy, or old stuff that like they're just trying to get rid of. But there are also items that they're filling the shelves with that like, hey, you get this at a discount here. She even said she bought me something full price and then saw it in there. And then she was too lazy to go back and return and do that whole deal. But it is what it is. So I would be interested if we get to make it down there again. I would love to go. I really do like these tribute stores. And I was actually going to go online and research some of the old ones because the props throughout this store are all old tribute stores. And she's like, what is this? And she got tons of pictures. I'm like, I don't know, Lauren. I know the last 3 tribute stores and that's it. But I'm wanting to go in and one day I'll pick your brain on like how these came about because I think this is a really unique Universal thing that Disney doesn't even come close to doing, like turning something around like that temporarily and coming back. I think this is really cool.
Very true. Very true. Okay, we were just talking about Epic Universe, and you've come across some info about them extending their hours. Is that correct? Or?
Right. If so, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm on the Pulse and X and Instagram and stuff, and there were lots of complaints about operating hours. Right, that they were closing early and this park is so beautiful at night. Why wouldn't you leave it open longer? And we talked a little bit on the last show about like, hey, you got to get up to a point where you can stay open that long. You need to get your team members, trained, so forth. But they did actually announce that they did change the operating hours from not just 9 to 9, but now they're open until 10, and a lot more dates are open till 10. So I think you guys talked about it maybe on the Disney Dish, and we've been chatting with BioReconstruct, sending us all these fountain show overviews, and they're doing all these cool things. So there is an extra hour at least in which you'll be able to either get in some more rides or experience some of the nighttime aspects of the beauty of the park. So that was just announced, which I can't say it's like a win for the community that was complaining. I think they were probably always going to say, hey, we'll make the park hours longer as long as we can continue to say that we can maintain it, right? Because there has to be, they still also have to clean and fix stuff up at the end of the night. So like, I understand why we can't just be open till 1 a.m. every single night.
Yeah, I get that there is demand, and I get that people want the bragging rights that they were in there early. But at the same time, it's Florida, and it's a brand new theme park, so things are going to break. And again, because it's Florida, there's also going to be extremes of weather, which brings us to our next story.
Well, Jim, this I saw this on Twitter by Ashley Carter, just someone that just posted, and I think this is worth us talking about. Is one of the days it was raining, and this was been like kind of the talk is like, this park is beautiful, but lots of outdoor rides, and when it's raining, what happens? Well, she shared a screenshot that during the time it was weather delay, Yoshi's Adventure, Curse of the Werewolf, Racers, Hiccups, Wing Gliders, Fire Drill, Minecart Madness, like we're all weather delayed. So there were only a few things open during this storm, and then one was on a virtual queue, like the Ministry of Magic. So what's your thoughts, Jim? We knew this was going to be a problem, but if it rains, they shut down the whole park. That sounds miserable.
Well,
what are they going to do?
But this is the hard reality. I mean, how many of us have been on, for example, Test Track, and you walked into the building, you stood in line for an hour, you finally got in your ride vehicle, and the back door opens, and you drive straight out into a driving Florida rainstorm, just like being hit in the face with rocks at 60 miles an hour. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, I get it. I get that people would be frustrated. I mean, more to the point, in fact, just yesterday, Nancy and I went out and finally caught thunderbolts, which was a lot of fun. By the way.
Oh, great.
But Len, evidently, you want to talk about people at Universal have to be tearing their hair out yesterday. And so we'd be talking May 6th was when the investor preview of Epic Universe was happening. So these are the people who are going to go and talk to the Wall Street Journal or tell people to go buy Comcast stock. And this was the day when it was pouring down rain and all of these attractions were closed. And it's one of these. And if you're, you're somebody in Universal management and it's our investor preview and how many rides are closed? And it's like, again, you feel for them, but it's like, you did build this in Florida. Right. I mean, it's just, you have to be ready for weather, and face it, it's only rain, not a hurricane, which, by the way, will also eventually impact this theme park.
Well, that was that. Somebody mentioned that the Mario, the Super Nintendo land during hurricanes with all those animatronics or electronics outdoor and not covered. That'll be interesting to see how this happens. And let's just hope we don't have it anytime soon. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle. Maybe some of these attractions are capable of being done in the rain and they're just being cautious right now because it's preview. Who knows? But I thought that was worth talking about, at least see how it works.
Oh, no. Absolutely. I do note here in your outline for the show that we have one more story that kind of doubles back on Lainey and Lauren's time in the park and something about an early closure.
Oh, well, when talking about the operating hours, about how, like they're probably not keeping it so super open. There was an actual moment. So Lauren and Lainey were both staying at Dockside. And the first day they were there, they were going to go to Universal. They're on property. They get the bus. It's just super easy. But the park's closed at 6. And they're like, I don't want to have to shuttle back and then figure out what I'm going to do. So they ended up going to the Magic Kingdom, which was open until 10, 11. And I just think to myself, like, in that case, we found out why. We're like, why was it? And it's some type of grad night where they rented out the park, and it makes it, I understand that. But you have to think of that when you're trying to attract people. If they would make Epic until midnight, everyone is going to want to go there because the hours are longer and so forth. So maybe even having it to the point where they're closing at 9 is it, and the other parks are open till 10. A few people that are on the cup of like, where do we want to go? A lot of people do choose the park that's open later to go to because you feel like you get more bang for your buck and you have more value per hour. So I think that might be another reason why they wouldn't like open it until midnight every single day, because everybody would want to go there every single day as opposed to maybe going to one of the other parks. So it was just an interesting observation that like the park hours will determine who goes where.
Oh, no, absolutely. But at the same time, when you think of a park as, I mean, for example, grad nights are a huge part of the overall business plan for, well, not just, the Disney parks and the Universal parks, but theme parks and amusement parks all around the country. I mean, the notion of you can get 2 bites of the same apple. You can, you can have a full day, you throw open the park at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and you sweep it at 6. And by 7, you have bus loads of high school students, who then are staying in the park till midnight, 2 a.m., something like that. And that's the money you use to, well, replace all the Yoshi figures that were left out in the rain or were no longer working. So
there you go. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the thing of, I get it from a theme park fan point of view, but, I now have so many friends who work on the operations side that I'm two minds about this. It's like, yes, I'm sorry, your vacation got complicated, but, they do occasionally need to get in there and put new toilet paper in the bathroom.
Right. No, I think there's 2 parts of it. There's, and we can kind of understand both aspects, that there's definitely a business. And when I was telling Lauren, I'm like, they got to be making money off that grad night to be shutting it down.
Oh, because, no, absolutely.
Granted, there are people that are going to say, well, I'll go to the Magic Kingdom instead today because it's open till 11, and then they're going to miss out on the money there. But so they know that cost. They know the opportunity cost they're missing and losing out on. So the people that are closing it down for the grads, they're making up for it. And like you said, they're double dipping. It's smart. And if it wasn't making them money, believe me, they'd close it down and stay open till 9.
And just remember that we talked about on your last show about the stuff you got Hunter, so you could take your picture of him in front of the Tomorrow's Child sign. What was it?
Project Tomorrow. Yep.
Project Tomorrow. There we go. So,
right.
All right. So, all right. Anyway, so yeah, they're selling merch, they're selling tickets. Everybody's happy except the people in India. It's like, what do you mean? I got to wait till 2027. All right. So I guess that brings us to the end of the news portion of this week's Epic Universal podcast. When we come back from this break, we're going to continue the story of Triceratops Encounter over at Jurassic Park, The Land at Islands. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by Heyday. Feeling stressed? Take a moment for yourself with Heyday. Stroll through rows of golden wheat, tend to cute barnyard animals, and discover the joys of a digital farm retreat. You don't have to hop in a car or catch a plane. Escape to the farm at the tap of a finger. With Heyday, you're not just tending to a farm, you're tending to yourself. Heyday. Search Heyday, that's Hay space DAY, in your favorite app store. Heyday is a free-to-play mobile game and offers optional in-app purchases and random rewards.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, so as I mentioned prior to our ad break there, we're going to be talking about Triceratops Encounter. Though, brief side note here, on last week's show, we talked about Pterodon Flyers, an opening day attraction at Universal's Islands of Adventure, opened with the Jurassic Park land there back on May 28th, 1999. And I think I was being, once again, a whiny baby man because, I'd never been on that ride because it is a height and weight restriction. But Eric, on the other hand, because he has his lovely young son, Miles, can still get on this thing.
Yes.
In fact, that's your goal for the next trip is to actually get on this thing.
We're rope dropping that sucker next time, Jim. We only got a couple more inches that he can stay under, so we gotta make it happen.
Just don't feed him for a while.
That's it.
Okay. But anyway, what's kind of interesting is in the same vicinity as Pterodon Flyers. In fact, catty corner to this part of Islands, it's the southwestern corner of that theme park, is Skull Island, Reign of Kong. And that attraction opened at this theme park back in July of 2016. And Mike West, he was the former Imagineer, Eric, who was the executive producer of Skull Island, Reign of Kong, came over to Universal Creative in the late 2000s, did things like the Simpsons ride. Great guy, has a lot of amazing stories. He's another one of these guys. It's like, write a book.
Yes.
Anyway, Mike told me back when Skull Island Reign of Kong first opened, asked him, well, why here? And we said, well, it wasn't just because there was an empty expansion pad here in the park, but also, because Skull Island, just like Jurassic Park, had flying dinosaurs. And so the notion was that by placing this trackless dark ride right where it is, guests, as they're walking up the hill out of Toon Lagoon, they come around a corner from Missa Falls to their directly in front of them is the entry arch to Jurassic Park, but right off to the left there is Skull Island, and then and they see these pterodactyls flying in the distance, and it's like, wow, it reinforces both stories in this corner of the park. So clever bit of placement there. However, one of the aspects of Jurassic Park, the land, and we're going to talk later how this kind of bit them in the butt. The idea was that as you enter this land, as you walk under the arch, you can't actually see any dinosaurs. You can hear them. In fact, because of the amazing audio soundscape that the Universal Creative Team has playing in that area, in addition to the John Williams score, you hear dinosaurs just off in that thick brush. They're just out of sight, but you can definitely hear them, but you can't see them. And by the way, want to take a moment here to pay tribute to the Universal Horticulture team, because think about it, they had to create from scratch, because again, this was just a pile of dirt when they started working on Islands Adventure back in '97 or thereabouts. When this place opened up, it had to look like this lush prehistoric garden that not only that had to look like it was also on an island off the shore of Costa Rica. So it's like getting that many plants to be that big, that thick, that lush. They were going to every single, greenhouse and nursery in Florida and just grabbing up product left and right. And by the way, a fun little side story here, right? While the Universal Horticultural team was doing that, they came across this nursery in South Florida, which had this section of full-size Washington palms, and the beautiful palm trees that had been damaged by Hurricane Andrew. Which, anybody remembers this storm, August of 1992. Blew across the state with winds as high as 174 miles an hour. And again, this is 1992 money, folks. $27 billion worth of damage.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was one of the costliest hurricanes on record. But anyway, these palm trees had survived Hurricane Andrew. But the thing is, they had been bent over by, again, those 175 mile an hour winds. But again, storm's over, and palm trees do what palm trees do. So the fronds were like, well, where is the sun? Oh, it's up there. And so they continued to grow and bent. And so now they had this wonderful section at their nursery of full-sized Washington palms that had this giant bend in their middle. And it was like, and they were having trouble moving them. But this is the thing. Universal came in and said, oh, absolutely, we want all of them. And it's like, really? For where? And it's like, Seuss's Landing.
Jim, I feel like I think I was admiring these trees the last time we were there, because I admire the fact there's no straight lines in that area. Yeah. It's all very Seuss-like. And I'm like, look at these things. There's lots of beautiful trees there. And I was always admiring it. That's where they got these, huh?
That's where they got these. So the next time you and the family are dining at Circus McGurk's, I don't know if you could see them from there. But yeah, I just thought, knowing how much your family enjoyed Seuss's Landing, I wanted to include that. Anyway, back to Jurassic Park, the land now. And again, we were just talking about Skull Island, Reign of Kong, and how it had been built outside of the arch on an expansion pad. But there's a thing, that expansion pad, Eric, was originally for one of two rides that were supposed to be added to Jurassic Park, the land in Florida. In fact, and here's what's interesting about it. The attraction that was originally supposed to go where Skull Island was located was the Jurassic Park, and I'm going to bobble this name, but this is actually what it was called, the Helicopters.
Okay. But OURS, right?
Yeah. All right. But here's what's kind of intriguing about what they were going to do. This was going to be that theme park's equivalent of Star Tours. It was a motion-based simulator attraction with the idea that, do you want to fly over Jurassic Park? Would you like to see the animal paddocks from the sky? And so you make your way through the queue. You, just like Star Tours, you grab a seat, and then they begin to fly over the park. And then, of course, something goes horribly wrong. Mm-hmm. And in fact, what's funny is the very monster that they're hyping in the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer. They talk about the pterodactyl that's the size of an F-16. That's what comes after you in the sky. So suddenly you're zigging, you're zagging, trying not to get attacked by the giant flying dinosaur. But that would have been cool. Now, on the other hand, on the other side of this land, in fact, This was actually going to be built where Hogwarts Castle stands today, was going to be the Jurassic Park Jeep adventure, and not a simulator. In fact, think of Countdown to Extinction, Dinosaur the Ride, only outdoors, Eric, and in broad daylight. So you were going to do things like, for example, you were going to suddenly be driving down a hill and there is an ultrasaur in your way and you're now driving between the legs. And at one point you lose control and slide backwards down a hill into a raptor paddock. Just sort of like, oh, good. I'm so glad I'm in the backseat where they're trying to bite my face.
Right, but that was the no-brainer though, wasn't it, Jim? I mean, like that was in the movie. You're caught in a Jeep. Like that was the I would have said, all right, like a Jungle Cruise or like you said, Dinosaur. And it might be interesting because Dinosaur came out beforehand. So like maybe that's what scrapped. Who knows?
Well, no, actually what was interesting is these two, I mean, again, think about it. These are two lands proposed for the extreme edges of Jurassic Park, the land at Islands of Adventure. And in fact, what's so funny is that I'm going to ask if we have listeners who are heading to the park anytime soon, because it used to be that when you did the Jurassic River adventure at this park and you were in the queue, you would pass a model of the construction, of what Jurassic Park, the land, was supposed to be at full build out. And you could literally see on this model, okay, that's where the helicopter attraction was supposed to go. And over there was where the Jeep adventure was supposed to go. And it's so funny that Bob Shreve, the executive producer for Jurassic Park, the land, they were running behind schedule, and more to the point, they were running out of money. And we have nothing. We have no money to decorate the queue. And it was like, he's in the construction trailer looking at the model and said, get this out of here and put it in the queue. People will think it's authentic because it is. All right. This is the real model. It stood there for years, and it's been so long since I've been on the ride. Does anybody know if it's still there?
Oh, that's kind of genius, Jim. Yes, please send us pictures if it's there. I would love to see that. I didn't notice it, but I think we were like a walk-on when we went last time. So
well, no, that's it exactly. It's depending on the time of year. It's like, oh yes, let me go outside and get wet. No, I'm not doing that. Anyway, we're here to talk about Triceratops Encounter, and I promise we'll get a close look at the walkthrough high-touch experience at this theme park in a moment. But first, this.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This message is brought to you by Abercrombie Kids, where the activewear is made for every summer activity, so your mini-me can bring their personal best. Summer days are always an adventure, from day camp to rec leagues and pool days. Abercrombie Kids has the shorts, tees, and swim to keep them comfy and keep up with them. Get everything for the entire summer at Abercrombie Kids. Shop in-store, online, or in the app.
Out here, there's no one way of doing things. No unwritten rules, and no shortage of adventure. Because out here, the only requirement is having fun. Bank of America invites kids 6 to 18 to golf with us. For a limited time, sign them up for a free 1-year membership, giving them access to discounted tee times at thousands of courses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/golf with us. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Restrictions apply. See BofA.com/golf with us for complete details. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation.
And we're back, folks. Okay. So, Eric, the thing is, Triceratops Encounter, Universal was so convinced that this was going to be a winner. This was going to be the thing that people would experience at Islands. And it's like, oh my God, I wish Disney would do something like this. That, I think we've talked in the past about the ad campaign that Universal put together for the opening of the park. For example, there's a kid flying down to Orlando who looks out, and on the wing of the plane, he sees Spider-Man fighting with Doc Ock. Yeah. Or there's the little girl who's in the diner in the South who says, I want green eggs and ham. And everyone laughs at her until the Cat in the Hat walks by outside, and suddenly everybody has green eggs and ham. But for Jurassic park, the land, the ad was this guy out in his neighborhood putting up flyers for his lost pet. And one of his neighbors comes up and looks at the flyer and is like, "Are you kidding me?" Because it's like lost. 125-foot long Triceratops named Sarah. And the guy's like, "Oh, come on. This isn't, now." But in the park next to them are these two guys playing frisbee. And one guy throws a frisbee to the other guy, and then suddenly bursting out of this undergrowth is this 25-foot long Triceratops who comes galloping toward these two guys. And just at the last minute, when you figure, well, this is going to end poorly, the Triceratops leaps in the air and grabs the frisbee in its beak. And the next thing you know, you see everybody in the neighborhood standing around petting the Triceratops because that's what you want to get to do on the encounter. And there was method to their madness about why put this particular experience in the park. And the hard reality was Jurassic River Adventure was going to have a height restriction. It was also going to be scary. And for little kids who love dinosaurs, they were going to want something in this, something memorable. And yeah, if you went over to the Jurassic Park Discovery Center, oh, and by the way, that's the other thing I got wrong on last week's show, Eric. Thank you for the notes from the Universal team members who work there, by the way. It is not the Jurassic Park Visitors Center. It is the Jurassic Park Discovery Center.
Okay. All right. We're taking notes.
We're taking notes.
I got it down.
We're trying to get the details right here, folks. But again, the notion was we've got to do something for little kids. And wouldn't it be cool if they could pet a dinosaur, if they could get up close to a dinosaur? So this is what I love about what they did. First of all, they contact this company, MD Robotics. All right. And to tell you how serious Universal was about, we want the most amazing audio animatronic dinosaur on the planet. MD Robotics, Eric, these are the folks who did the robotic arm on the space shuttle. All right. I mean,
I remember hearing this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just hardcore people. I mean, probably big dollars.
Oh, no.
Pretty important job out there.
But here's the thing. You contact this company in Canada. You're going to be building our dinosaur. But at the same time, it's like, okay. And we're tailoring this experience to little kids. So they actually spend members of the Universal creative team to petting zoos up in the Toronto area. And it's like, and they literally sit there for days and watch, how do little kids interact with big animals? What are they looking for? What, if we're going to do this high touch experience, what are little kids looking for? And the interesting thing is that one thing they notice right off the bat is we automatically anthropomorphize. We pet a steer or a horse. It's oh, the nice horsey. Oh, the nice cow. So it was like, all right. So it had to, and that's the thing. It's like, wow, this thing's going to have to act.
Yeah.
It's going to have emotions and respond. You know how you're petting a dog and it leans into you? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. It's like, all right, we're going to be looking for those sorts of things. And the other thing is that we need to be ready for the fact that there are going to be little kid dinosaur nerds who are going to know. I mean, oh, the Triceratops, yes, from the Jurassic period, and I mean, the Cretaceous, and it's just the whole notion of we cannot skimp on the details. We have to do this right. So it's a 24-foot long, 10-foot high audio animatronic figure that blinks, that breathes, that, chest expansion. If you're watching the eye actually, the pupils dilate.
Oh, wow. I don't think they do that on the Carousel of Progress.
No, they don't. The dog barely lifts its head up anymore. Right. All right. Most guests were going to be no less than 6 feet away from this thing. And then there were going to be people who were invited into the paddock to pet it and interact with it. But also showing that, again, they paid attention to the original Jurassic Park movie that Universal Studio put out. It was also going to have to sneeze. Now, mind you, this was water mist. Nobody was going to get prehistoric snot flung at them. But at the same time, there are 65 different storyboards that they did for the performance
Oh,
for this
wow.
thing. And I was looking at one the other day where it was strictly about how does the nostril contract? It's like after it sneezes, the nostril's got to contract.
Oh, my.
And then also to sell you on the idea that this is a living, breathing, moving creature. At one point, the trainer, the cast member who's in the space, who's supposedly examining this sick Triceratops. In fact, that's why it's back in its barn. It's been taken off exhibit, and they're doing a health check on it. But at one point, they ask it to lift its leg, though, so they can look at the pad of its foot. So it's like, oh crud, we have to support this multi-ton thing on only 3 legs. And then the kicker here, because they need capacity. They can't just build one of these. They're going to have to build 3.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, in fact, they're just to be clear here, the 3 animatronic Triceratops, there was Topper, the matriarch and eldest, along with Chris and Sarah. They were supposedly her children, and they all had different personalities and different coloration. And the interesting thing is that, let's walk you through the experience. All right, it starts up on the main drag of Jurassic Park: The Land. As you've walked past the visitor center, coming over from, say, the Harry Potter side, there was a giant fossilized skeleton of a Triceratops with a name that said Triceratops Encounter. And if you decided, oh, I want to check that out, you started down a trail. And again, with the notion of, they figured that thousands of people were going to want to do this every day. So there had to be things in line to entertain you. So you first came up to a remote security station, which, as you looked at the video displays and that sort of thing, you saw they were tracking every single animal on the island. And by the way, the northwest side was where all the meat eaters were.
Okay.
You then moved to the next interactive segment, and this was the feeding station, where they were getting food ready to distribute to take out to the various paddocks, and you watch them, mixing their big bowls of Triceratops chow. And by the way, you saw the charts that listed every single dinosaur in the place, what their pet names were, what their feeding schedule was. And by the way, Sarah was 7 years old. Anyway, you then get to a field research station. And here's the thing, Eric, every one of these places in the queue had had a cast member, a team member who was pretending to do a job. Like, for example, when you got to the final of 3, it was the field research outpost. And here were paleontologists and nutritional biologists who were, leaning over computer displays. And these were live people, not animatronic. So you've already walked by 5 or 6 team members who are play acting at working at Jurassic Park. But, if you ask them questions, they explain what their job is. But finally, at this last place, you're like, oh, hang on, we have to get the person who's going to take you into the barn. And then a team member comes along and leads you down to the paddock, and you walk inside, and sure enough, there's your Triceratops, again, your 24-foot long, 10-foot tall Triceratops. And I wish I could say, but again, remember, we were just talking about how they spent all that money on that ad because they thought for sure this was going to be the thing that people would go to and talk about. And this is why they built their giant queues to hold hundreds of people. And then for high capacity, it's like, all right, you go to paddock number 1, you go to paddock number 2, you go to paddock number 3, so we can get sufficient capacity. But again, we were just talking about Bob Shreve, the executive producer of Jurassic Park: The Land. And he got asked about the project years after the fact. And he said, look, I was of 2 minds about Triceratops Encounter. He complained about how this attraction, because it had so much sophisticated technology, it was a moonshot. And as a result, it was always plagued with technological issues. It was, and as he put it, look, it was just far too complex to exist in a theme park environment, especially a theme park in Florida with the water and the humidity and, all that. But then he got asked, well, what were you proudest of when it came to Jurassic Park: The Land? And he's, hands down, it was the Triceratops. Because when it worked, it gave this wonderful, emotional, real. I mean, you looked at this thing and it's like, that's a real dinosaur right there. And and they did things like it actually gave off an odor. That's the thing. They worked that hard.
Well, I also know what it did, Jim. I saw a couple videos before.
Yeah, it also peed. Yes, it did. That's the thing. It was supposed to be. You were supposed to think you were looking at a live animal. But anyway, we mentioned a moment ago the marquee, the Triceratops Encounter marquee. Again, off of the main drag on Jurassic Park: The Land, and again, the decision that was made about you couldn't see the dinosaurs really did wind up biting Jurassic Park: The Land in the butt, because people would look at the marquee and not put together that, oh, I should go in there. I should walk down that trail. I should see that thing. They couldn't see what they were missing, literally. So the marquee, they began to realize, wow, that's too subtle. People aren't getting this. And by the way, on Disney Dish, we've talked about this, how, sometimes when you put the entrance in the wrong place, or you put the marquee, in a way that people don't put it together, there's a ride there, it'll impact your ride. So people weren't going down the ride. Or weren't going down for this high touch, amazing experience. And more to the point, we were just talking about the 7 or 8 people who were sitting in those fake kiosks doing fake jobs. So it's expensive to maintain. It's expensive to operate. You have 3 different animatronics that you have to keep up and running. That, not only do you have to have team members who are good at interacting with them, but you have to have the full maintenance team to do this. And let's not forget about Island's launch in May of '99 was botched because of that whole Universal Escape rebranding of the resort. There were a lot of people who, when they saw those ads, would have got Spider-Man and Doc Ock fighting on the wing of the plane. It's like, you opened a new land at the studios? No, it's a whole new theme park. You have to come down here.
Right.
So they didn't get enough attendance. And long story short, this is a park, opens May of '99. By the time we're 3 years in, and they've added, in fact, the irony is that, when they went to add new stuff to the park, it's like, we're not making enough money to do helicopter tours or the Jurassic Park Jeep ride. We're going to go buy things that are literally off the shelf attractions, like the flying unicorn, or the storm attraction, the spinner that got added. And in the same window of time, because it's like, well, we need people to operate these other rides. Triceratops Encounter went seasonal, and that was in 2002. And now you have a Universal. It's like, we spent all this money, and we have to figure out how to fix this attraction. And if we can't figure out how to fix this attraction, how do we get people over to this side of the park? And on the next installment of this series, we'll talk about that, and how, for example, the Triceratops Encounter went away to provide space, well, not just for the Velocicoaster, but the Raptor Encounter, which, by the way, did you guys do that when you were at the park?
I got some videos from Lauren and Lainey who got to do it for the first time, and it is quite hysterical. So I'm pretty jazzed to hear how this came about, and I'll share some wonderful stories next week with you about how they had their first Raptor encounter.
Oh, can't wait. Because again, that, the irony is, if we're being completely honest here, Raptor Encounter is probably as low. I mean, it's as high tech as Triceratops Encounter was. Raptor Encounter is as low tech as you can go, and it's still ridiculously effective. So,
right.
All right. So anyway, I guess that's going to bring us to the end of this week's Epic Universal podcast. So, Eric, where can the nice folks find you?
Yeah, Jim, you can always find me at Eric Hersey on pretty much all the social platforms. How about yourself?
I am still, over on X and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and also on Facebook as Jim at Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's it for this week. So thanks, folks, for listening, and stick around to hear what's coming up this month over on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode, and if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa or animation and movie news. Please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our Epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcasts and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.